Welcome back to another episode of the Credit Pearls podcast. Today we have Dr. Aisling Gough. She is a female health and wellness coach, and she is also an expert on the menopause, which I personally am very interested in. So Aisling, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've only met you today. We didn't have a relationship before, so I'm dying to know a little bit about you and your background and how you started in your field.
Goodness, how far do you want me to go back?
Maybe start with just a little bit about your childhood and like your school, and then we can talk about how you got into your area of expertise.
Okay, so from the north, County Down, I'm one of 7.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a football team. One of 7. I'm the baby girl.
Okay.
School, I'm probably one of the few. I absolutely love school.
Really?
Generally was sad to leave.
Okay.
Both secondary, I went to a fantastic grammar school, loved it. I did 3rd level education, went to university, did my doctorate. So my experience of education's been nothing but positive.
Okay. And did you go straight in? What did you do study in university? What did you?
Everything.
Oh, really? Well, I'm still studying.
Yeah. I started with a psychology degree.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy that at all, and I went straight to do a PhD across medicine.
Okay.
So preterm babies was my thing. And then whilst I was doing that, I also did a bit of a master's in nursing as well.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah, in my first year of
Really?
my PhD, yeah.
Because my son is doing a PhD at the moment, and he said it is full on.
Yeah, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
said
but I loved it.
But you did the nursing then as well with it.
I was
Okay.
equally devastated when that ended, I really was. I
And
loved
you were
it that
just
much.
always academic?
No,
No.
not really. I loved school.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved school, but no, I had to work for it.
Okay.
I probably listened to my sister too much. She always said that, my eldest sister I'm really close with, she always said that if you just show up, you're going to absorb something. So
Okay.
that was my method. I didn't really study for the
Okay.
first wee while because I took her advice very literally. I sure
Okay,
went
you
to
were
school
like,
every
I
day,
just
it'd be
go, I
grand.
just arrive.
And then, yeah, at a point, it was like, you're actually going to have to study if you want to do well.
Yeah. And then you went on, did your PhD, and then where did that take you?
My first proper job, I worked for the university.
Okay.
It was almost like a health visitor. So in deprived areas, so we were writing the manual for vulnerable young mums who didn't
Okay.
have that support. Did that for a year, didn't love that. And then I got my kind of dream job, which was in public health. And then everything just went from there. Absolutely loved public health.
Okay. Really? Why?
Women's health in particular was my focus. So my first role was preconception diabetes.
Okay.
So preparing women for a baby before they decide to have a baby. It's really, really important if you're diabetic. Very, very important, both for you and your baby.
Okay.
And then I went into the skin cancer field, which, full disclosure, I was an avid user of sunbeds,
Yeah.
so that was an eye-opening experience for me. And then went into both nutrition and physical activity, and that kind of spurred me on to where I ended up now, I suppose.
And what was it about the public sector that you liked? Was it just the interaction with people, or the fact that you were helping, or both?
More the latter. I was probably young, naive, and generally thought I was going to change the world.
Yeah.
In every field I went into, I absolutely adored it. Went in all guns blazing, generally thought that everything I was going to do was going to change the world. And if you know anything about academia and research, things take a very, very long time before anything comes to fruition. So that was frustrating.
So, and then so let's talk about first, we'll talk about the health and wellness side of your business, and then we'll really go into menopause. But the health and wellness side, because I think I'm looking at social media now, and there are so many conflicting like methods out there. There's like all different diets, vegan, paleo, then I don't know, Atkins diet, then there's like dairy free, gluten free. I don't know what to eat. We had some guys on earlier on, they were talking about it, but really I have no idea what to eat. And then recently they were saying for menopause you should avoid gluten and something else, and I'm confused. And I think everybody is. There's so many messages out there for us, and nobody now, as far as I'm concerned, I can drink water and that's it.
Yeah.
So do you see that, and maybe unqualified people with these messages?
100%. I think part and parcel of that is we all eat. So we all have our own opinion on what works, what doesn't. We're all our own expert, I guess.
Yeah.
Social media is a blessing and a curse. Like, don't get me wrong, I built my business off social media. I absolutely adore it. But in the same breath, there's so much information, not enough knowledge.
Okay.
I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not a one size fits all. We're all very, very different, and fundamentally, if your focus is fat loss and you want to approach a diet, you have to be in a caloric deficit. You can dress it up with whatever name you want, keto, paleo, low carb, low fat, call it whatever you want, but fundamentally it's still the same thing. And I kind of just go straight to the source of calories in, calories out.
Okay. Because people are saying now this intermittent fasting, and I'm like, is that just skipping breakfast? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's, and honestly, every podcast I listen to, someone are like, absolutely eat meat, do not. Have fish, don't. Then I heard a guy who's like, don't eat vegetables or fruit, they're full of sugar. And this is just, yeah. So basically for fat loss, we're saying calories matter.
Oh, absolutely. You can't
Lose weight
deny
otherwise.
that. That's absolutely fact. But what you eat absolutely matters.
Yeah.
Especially if your focus is health.
Okay.
So weight loss and fat loss are two different things. So if you want to lose weight, you want to lose body fat, you have to be eating less fundamentally.
Okay.
But if you care at all about your health and how you function as a human being, you have to also pay attention to what you eat.
And are people now more concerned about the fat loss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's changed. I think it's always been the case.
Always been. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I know, like, you know, and then what about protein? Because, you know, we were talking about this protein shakes, replacing meals. Like, I mean, I'm of the era where it was slim fast. I did the slim fast. I think it was the same thing. You just had these 2 shakes and then a dinner, which was fish and vegetables. But you were just in a calorie deficit, really,
literally.
and that was it. But protein shakes, and what's your view on those?
There's nothing magic about them.
Okay.
Protein's absolutely important, and especially, and we'll talk about this no doubt further, as a menopausal woman, it becomes increasingly more important, I think.
Okay.
Because after the age of 35, you're losing 1% of muscle every year. That's a lot.
God,
As a woman, it's very hard to build muscle tissue.
Yeah, yeah.
So you want to hold on to that as much as possible. So you need protein, adequate protein, in order to
hold
build or
on to
maintain
that,
muscle.
okay.
Protein shakes, depending on what they are, if it's just a standard protein shake, it's powdered milk. There's nothing magic about it. You can get ones that are meal replacement shakes. I wouldn't typically advise those.
Okay.
But I just like my food. That's probably why.
So probably your best advice would be just have chicken breast.
Yeah,
or
eat
have
protein
proper food.
sources, have a shake if it's convenient. I'm really enjoying a specific shake at the moment, but it's more of a juice.
Okay.
So it's not that creamy way.
Okay.
This is an isolate, and if you have that, I'll send you a link to it. If you have that as a slush puppy, it is divine.
Okay. Okay. Because that's, I think there's so much conflicting evidence. Where should people go if they're looking for more information?
Me.
Yeah. Like an expert. I love that it's like there's so much information and not enough knowledge.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's happening, and it is so confusing when I'm looking at everything. I'm terrified. I'm like, I don't actually know what's good for me now. But then I look back at history and my grandparents and people. I think they had a more balanced diet than we do.
Yeah.
They ate probably porridge, soup, bread, vegetables, meat, potatoes, and maybe a snack. That was it, really.
Yeah, it was
And they didn't have much more than that, and they were healthy.
more active, less processed foods. All of that's really important.
Yeah.
Probably not enough protein.
Yeah.
But
they
equally, I'm
yeah.
sure the times
They
kind
didn't
of
have
dictated
it.
that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't have enough money
Yeah.
maybe to buy that, or it just wasn't as readily available. And what are you seeing as having the most negative impact on people? So we all want to look slim and be gorgeous and have 6 packs now. So when I was growing up, right, the ideal woman for my era, so I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, and it was this stick thin, like gaunt, ghostly looking. That was the ideal woman. Now it's sort of muscle, it's sort of rounded bum, 6 pack. Now you have to have slim and all of this, which I think the muscle and the more rounded figure is better, so we can be healthier looking. But there is a lot of pressure to be a certain way.
Oh, 100%. And
Yeah.
the goalpost changes all the time.
Yeah.
Like you said, Kate Moss era of, what
Yeah.
did she say? Nothing tastes as good as skinny
Being
feels.
skinny, yeah.
That was detrimental.
Yeah.
And then we had the BBL
Yeah.
era, and
Yeah.
now it is the kind of more athletic look, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, it's changing all the time, but it's difficult for women. And down as we reach this, so how would you help women? So we'll talk about menopause in a minute. So if somebody's coming to you, are they generally looking for fat loss? And then, but really, there's probably more to it at the back when you dig deeper in.
Like 9 times out of 10, if a woman's come to work with me, they want to lose weight and get toned. Like everybody wants
Yeah,
that kind of at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah.
That's usually the kind of first step. So that is fundamentally going to be your nutrition and your training.
Okay, and what would you look at for them then? If it was me and I said, okay, I just want to maybe lose some weight and tone up, and I came to you brand new, what would you do?
First things first, look at your diet.
Okay.
And it's an inclusive approach. I personally don't like cutting things out or anything like that. So I'm more so plugging the gaps. What are you missing? Are you eating enough protein? Are you eating enough fibre? Like the whole fruit and veg thing that triggers the life out of me. You need more fruit and veg in your diet. It's linked to longevity. It's quite literally linked to being alive longer.
Okay.
Especially fruit. Are you eating enough good fats? So 90-0 of fats make you fat, detrimental again.
Yeah.
Female hormones run on fats, you need them.
Okay.
So I'm more so looking at what do we need to add in rather than take out. And inclusive of chocolate, I've got a sweet tooth, if that's your vice, keep it in.
Yeah.
Like I don't like restriction, it doesn't last.
Yeah, and then you can't stick to it then if you really want something and it's not in your day. So you look at everything then. So you start with food.
Yep.
And then what about exercise or
steps first?
Okay.
That's fundamentally from a health perspective rather than fat loss.
Right.
Do you track your steps?
I do.
What are you in for?
About 8,000 a day.
That's sensible.
Yeah.
So 6,000 is the kind of sweet spot for health.
Okay.
Every 1,000 you get after that, you're adding on years to your life.
Really?
Yeah.
So dogs, I think the dogs are great for it. They kind
I
of get me out. It's
dogs.
like even if I don't want to go, I'm like, oh, I have to bring the dogs.
You get the guilt.
So it does get me out. And is that it? Like I think if we look back, people walked everywhere. This is a new thing that now we're not walking.
Yeah.
So I think now that we have to track our steps. And when you have a bad day, the shame.
Just take the watch off. Don't
yeah,
look at it.
that's shame. I haven't got it on today because I knew I wouldn't get any. But it is, so that's the first things that you would start with.
Yeah.
Diet and steps, and then you build from there.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is, so for a woman, and you specialise in women's health, is it cardio, is it weights, is it both?
Both.
Both. That's what I thought.
Two very, very different things. Like cardiovascular health is obviously really important.
Yeah.
And to kind of bring menopause into the equation. So throughout the lifespan, men have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
Until we hit menopause, and then we overtake them.
And what is that? Why is that?
Estrogen.
Okay.
So you have estrogen quite literally all over your body. And as that's declining, it literally affects everything.
Like every organ in my body?
Yeah. You can get itchy ears because there's estrogen receptors in your ear. Estrogen is also made in your brain, so the mental health side effects of menopause are actually really profound.
And when does menopause or perimenopause, so prior to what I've read lately, because I'm in that space, and like even for me to say that, Aisling, the shame around menopause, because we spoke about this earlier, I am only saying it now because I just didn't want to associate myself with menopause or perimenopause because I didn't want to be that age because it's this sort of shame. Is that still there?
I think that's changing. I only actually think maybe in the past 2 to 5 years that's changing.
Yeah.
Because no one talked about it, for starters. And then those who did, it was all very hush-hush.
Yeah.
As you said, the shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And I think most would have associated menopause with being an old woman.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely not the case. So average age of menopause is 51.
Okay.
And you can be perimenopausal 10 years.
See, this is what I'm, and then I thought, right, so when it was like, my period stopped or were stopping and I had hot flushes. That is all I knew prior to now. That is all I thought it was. And if I didn't have those two things, because I kept saying I don't have any symptoms until I read what the symptoms are. So
there's loads.
What are they? Give us maybe 10 or 5, whatever you can think.
A change in menstrual cycle, not necessarily a period stopping. So that could be heavier, lighter flow. It could be shorter periods, it could be longer periods. It could be anxiety. It could be palpitations, low mood, rage and mood swings.
Yeah.
So especially the irritability, like things that didn't annoy you and now you want to blow off the handle over it. That's common. Midsection weight gain, and that's a body fat redistribution to the belly.
And what is that estrogen?
Everything, literally everything. What else? Itchy skin, itchy ears is common. Thinning hair, low libido is really common.
Yeah, and insomnia.
Insomnia, brain fog. Yeah.
I have all them.
Yeah.
I have most of them. And that's what I didn't know. But I thought, and like, I remember talking to my mum's friend, and so they're in their 70s now, and I said, what is it like? And she said, the only way I can describe it is I had this rage that was inside me that wanted to come out. But she said, I knew I could keep it in. And I was thinking, I know I can't. And I don't even have it. I think I was 20. And I was like, I already know I can't keep that in. But all of these women went around with this rage and nobody spoke about it and they had no help. But also I think now women who are at this age are still working.
Yeah, 100%.
Are probably still having children or raising children.
Yeah.
And it's a different life for us. So we need the help.
100%. But like we talked about this earlier, you do not get a badge of honour for just ploughing on through. Like if you're suffering, there's absolutely options there. There's help there.
And is taking the HRT at an earlier time better or worse, or can you take it long term?
All of the above, yeah. It's that there's evidence to show the earlier you take it, the better.
Okay.
Especially if you're in early menopause or premature ovarian insufficiency or POI. It used to be the train of thought that you can only take it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or you could only take it up to the age of natural menopause, but that's not the case anymore. You can take it for as long as you need it.
Okay. And does it stop menopause, or what does it do?
It won't stop menopause. So if you think about it, your menopause is actually one day. Most don't know that either.
It's one day?
One day. So you're pre-menopause until your periods start to change, and then you're perimenopausal for 5-10 years.
Okay.
And then the one day where you've had no period for exactly 12 months, that's menopause. After that day, you're postmenopausal for the rest of your life.
No, so it's one day.
Technically, yeah.
But we think it's a lifespan. And I also, so my understanding it was that you took HRT, you stopped the menopause, but when you stopped taking it, the menopause came back. That's what I thought. That's what my mother said. She said, you just have to not take it because you'll get it anyway. So that's not true.
It supports your symptoms. So the point
Okay.
of HRT is replenishing hormones that have diminished over time.
Okay.
So as you take HRT, it's kind of topping it back up.
Okay.
So then you don't have the symptoms associated with it. So if you then stopped it, you might experience the symptoms again.
Okay. So you can take it forever, because I think people thought they would get breast cancer. There was research done in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's why doctors were reluctant to give it to women. Women were afraid to take it. They thought there was an increase in breast cancer, and that's where all the problems really started.
That
for
was
women.
very damaging as a paper. And the way that came about, it wouldn't happen now. The process of how that was kind of, think about it as being leaked to the press. That's kind of what happened.
Okay.
We lost almost 20 years of research in women as a result of that. And I think that's actually the worst part of all of that. There's not enough research in women, full stop.
Yeah, there
and that
isn't.
kind of put a bit of a stopper on it. That's what everyone still holds on to, and that's still damaging to this day.
Yeah.
So many people think that if you take HRT, you will get breast cancer. There's actually a higher risk of breast cancer if you're obese. There's a higher risk of breast cancer if you drink alcohol recreationally.
Wow.
But there's no
Nobody's
sticker on a
talking
bottle of
about
wine.
this.
Do you know what I mean?
Nobody's saying this, but HRT is definitely and even now, because when I spoke with my doctor, so when I started to do the research, my husband's a scientist and he got all the papers from me and said, read all of these. So I read them all and I said, oh my God, all the symptoms I have, and I started to really educate myself more. And then I went to my doctor and she said, you're too young. You don't have menopause. I said, no, but I have these symptoms. Should you have hot flushes? No. And it was a woman. I don't. And you still have your period every month? Yeah, okay, no, you're not menopausal. I don't. And she wouldn't give me the HRT. She said, you don't need it. And so many people, women that I spoke to now, that got the prescription, it isn't available in the pharmacists. So they have to wait then. And one woman said, if I don't get this, she really needs it, but there's a waiting list and it's not readily available. Why is that, Aisling?
Well, one, it's not a preset requirement for GPs to have menopause training.
Okay.
So for a lot of GPs, they will elect to go and do additional training or specialise themselves as a menopause specialist.
Okay.
Honestly, if your experience is that, where you're kind of getting fobbed up and you're being told you're not perimenopausal, but you have all the symptoms, I would consider getting a second opinion.
Okay.
I do understand why they would say that, because you don't present with certain symptoms, and that's what HRT is technically licensed for,
Okay.
the hot flushes. But if you present with all those symptoms, you can ask for a second opinion.
Okay.
There's absolutely shortages. They've been calling it the Davina McCall effect, which I don't think is very helpful. After her documentary,
been very outspoken about all of this.
She's been brilliant.
Yeah, she's been fantastic.
And don't get me wrong, HRT is not for everybody.
Right.
And it's also not the be-all and end-all. Like, lifestyle factors are still absolutely important.
Okay.
So managing your weight.
Those? Yeah, okay.
Well, managing your weight, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, all the stuff that we probably should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
It does have a big, big role.
Okay.
So
And is
whether
it
you take
harder
HRT
for
or not.
women in that phase to lose weight or manage their weight?
It can be, yeah.
And is that just hormonal again? Oh my God.
There
it
is that body fat redistribution, as it says, and women generally will look more to their belly whenever they're looking at body image. I think that's really common.
Okay.
But it's more so the symptoms, actually. So if you have low mood, low motivation, you're not sleeping, Your appetite's going to potentially increase. You're seeking out comfort in what you eat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Potentially not exercising, less movement due to day-to-day life, job, etc., etc. All of that has that kind of compound effect where you feel like you maybe changed nothing, but you've
Okay,
slowed
but you
down, you're
have-
eating more, eating
okay.
different things. So
Okay, so yeah, if you really look, because your mood is low, you don't want to do the things that you did before.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're still going to the gym, but you're not as active as you would have been. Now, the one major change that I made this year, and I spoke to Richard and I spoke to everybody, I stopped drinking alcohol. And that has really helped my motivation and how sharp I am on my mind. They were the two, because I had, like, not brain fog, but I had this kind of disengaged feeling that I just, like, meh, okay, with people. And it wouldn't be like me. I just didn't want to engage. And I found like I wasn't as sharp and I was not motivated to do any, not like I was motivated to do certain things, but other things, no. And when I stopped drinking alcohol, I immediately thought that I was going to have this glow. People were talking, you're going to feel this glow, and after a week you feel amazing. I didn't feel any of that, but I definitely was more motivated than I had been, and that disengaged feeling was gone. And the brain fog is not as bad. And I don't know if we were talking about it earlier, if you have a lower tolerance for alcohol
Definitely.
when you're in this
absolutely.
time of our lives.
Yeah, so maybe could have drank a bottle of wine over a weekend and then you're a wee bit
Yeah.
hammered after a glass.
Yeah.
Not sleeping as well. And
Yeah.
alcohol can make symptoms of menopause worse.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to impact your sleep, definitely. And then hot flushes can get worse with alcohol too.
And the anxiety I used to feel, I never felt anxious. And then when I was watching Davina McCallum, I was like, I'm anxious over something that would never have made me anxious. But that was heightened if I even had one glass of wine. I felt totally anxious the next day and just not in the mood of anything. So I think that's definitely helped. So people can help themselves with
Absolutely.
diet, exercise. And is this gluten thing real?
No.
No.
Don't get me wrong, if you have a sensitivity to
different,
gluten,
yeah.
don't have that. But it's like the push at the minute, and I'm seeing much more of it. Women during menopause should not have carbs. There's no evidence based for that. Carbs are actually beneficial for menopausal symptoms.
So they're saying no carbs. Yeah, I saw that as well, actually. Yeah.
High fibre carbs are exactly what you should be having.
And what is an example of high fibre carbs?
Whole grains, legumes, beans, peas, lentils, things like that.
Okay, okay.
How we should be eating, really,
How we
let's
should
be
be
honest.
eating, really. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I think now, what I worry about now is not the longevity, it's the quality of the life that I have as I live.
100%.
I think about that more. And I think, and I did read that, you know, the lack of the hormone in all of my organs in my body can give me a stroke, a heart attack, all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is actually outrageous. Why are we not all given HRT to help us? Because it's actually making us sick and nobody is talking about any of that.
For those who can take it, like, don't get me wrong, there are some people who cannot take HRT
Why
for
would you
various
not be able
reasons.
to take it for?
Family history,
Okay.
cancer for some. There's other aspects to that. Your own health.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a conversation with your GP for sure. If there is a reason where you can't take it, there's still other options.
Okay.
But it's still fundamentally going to come back to, like, do try to help yourself from a
Yeah.
lifestyle perspective. Diet, definitely. Exercise, and to bring that back to longevity, there's a massive correlation between being physically active and being alive for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, muscle mass is a predictor of longevity.
And muscle mass for women, if we're losing 1% of our muscle after 35, what can we do besides the protein?
Resistance training all
Yeah.
day long. Like, 1 in 2 women will have osteoporosis, a fracture as a result of osteoporosis. 1 in 2. That's a high number, a
That
high
is
number.
high.
And it's a silent disease. You don't know you've got it until you break your bone. And your bone's almost like sponge on the inside.
And would resistance training help with that?
That is the best thing you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to do more of this. And for somebody who has never done resistance training, because I know definitely for us it was cardio. Now I do resistance training now, but definitely it was cardio, running, we did step aerobics, everything. Where do they start and what should they do?
I would definitely recommend getting a trainer, even
Yeah.
if it's someone or an induction in a gym to walk you around, show you how you use equipment. Start small, because honestly, if you've not done training before, do you know what I mean? If I say DOMS,
Yeah.
you're going to
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
that. The
That's
sore,
like sore
the pain.
legs. Like,
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, prepare yourself for that. But start small and build it up.
Yeah.
Women are so strong.
Yes.
Like, I work with a lady at the minute. Have you ever done a hip thrust?
Yes.
She hip thrusts 200 kilo.
Oh my God.
200. like super duper strength. And I think pint-sized women, because the shorter you are, you tend to be stronger lower body too. So yeah, I love resistance training. I'm a big fan of it. So definitely getting a foot in the door with that.
Yeah, and start that way to really help themselves to
100%.
yeah, because it's. I think women are afraid, right? This is what women say, I don't want to get big muscles. And I'm like, it's really hard to
I've been trying for years, like literally.
Yeah, you did the bikini.
I did bikini competitive, yeah.
Yeah, and it was hard to build muscle.
Yeah, but I trained, so I started weight training, well, I rowed at university.
Okay.
And this was, oh God, what year was that?
Did you row competitively?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. I was afraid of water, joined the rowing team. That was good crack. I can't remember what year that was, like 2006, maybe 2007. And that was my first introduction to weight training because I didn't like running.
Okay.
So the men got to train weights and the women had to go for a run, and I was like, no, thank you. So that was my first introduction to weight training. So I've been at this generally for a very, very long time.
They selected the women to go running and the men to do weight training. Okay.
And then we all trained on the water. I was like, no. They were getting a lovely indoor set and we were getting absolutely soaked in the rain. I was like, no, thank you. So yeah, I've been lifting weights for a very, very long time, and I'm far from bulky.
No, you're tiny. Yeah, but you feel better, you look better. And I think that's what people thought it was going to be, like the bodybuilding women, like of, huge, big arms, but they didn't associate with somebody that looked like you.
No.
So if they're afraid of that, it's like, don't be.
No, that doesn't happen by accident. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
You're not going to wake up and feel like She-Hulk overnight. Like you can't, that doesn't work.
It's just more to keep that muscle tone in our body, which is important as we age. And I know, don't they do some test, how you can get off the ground or something that will tell you how long? If you can get up from a sitting position on the ground without your hands or something, that they test something like that, that will give you the longevity. But it's for me to be able to move when I'm older.
Yeah.
Carry my own bags walking up and down the stairs, be independent. And I think that's really what I'm looking at now at my age. And I've done a bit of resistance training over the last maybe 10 years, 15 years. But and then we were talking earlier, when I stopped, so I was like a gym bunny, always in the gym, 5-6 days a week. And then when I started my own business, I stopped training because I just didn't know how to fit it into my life anymore. I was like, oh, and the impact on mental health,
100%.
sleep, body image, confidence, everything. So, and then to try and bring it back into my life again and start resistance training again and just start going to the gym. And even, like, it made me really understand people. I was embarrassed to go. Now, I wasn't grossly overweight at all, but I wasn't in the same shape that I'd been in. And I didn't want people to see me. And I was like, this is how people feel when they're, and this is why they don't want to go. And sometimes the gym isn't a welcoming environment for beginners. If you're already intimidated and then you have to walk in, so maybe start online. I don't know, any advice for people on that?
I can totally relate to that too. Like, I'm quite a shy introvert person at the best of times, and if I've gone to a new gym that I don't normally go to, I'm like pure awkward turtle. I'm like, where do I go? I don't know any of the equipment, and it is really intimidating. For ladies that I'm working with that do feel like that, one, we can start with home workouts. That's super easy. Another option is I will give them a dumbbell only workout. So they go to one spot in the gym, they stay there and then get their full workout done, and then as they build up their confidence, they can incorporate different parts of the gym. Okay,
that's really good. So they just know, go get it done. Like, it is intimidating, it totally is. And everybody looks like they know what they're doing.
They don't.
And they probably don't.
But no one's looking at you too. You get so self-conscious.
You do. And I felt that I felt when I went back, I said, oh my God, everybody's looking at what I'm doing. They weren't. Nobody was even minding me.
They're all looking at themselves.
In the mirror. So people should, so if they don't start, reach out to somebody, maybe get some support, get some advice. And then people who are struggling with the menopause, it is okay to say to your doctor, I want a second opinion, or, say, no, actually, I'm not happy with that. I feel I need support here.
Going into that appointment, like, that can be really difficult, really overwhelming to go in and have that conversation, because if you feel like, you don't quite feel like yourself for starters, you're wondering what the hell's wrong with me, I'm feeling all of these things, I don't feel like myself, and it feels like a very, very uncomfortable, vulnerable conversation. And then if you are told, no, you're fine, you're like, but I'm not fine, there's something wrong. So the more prepared you can be going into that conversation, the better. So there's loads of symptom checklists online, there's menopause questionnaires you can fill in where you can almost get a score. When I tick all of these boxes, can we have a conversation around this? And I don't know what it's like in the south, but you get a 10-minute appointment with your GP in the north. So you want to maximise the time that you've got as well. And absolutely, if you don't feel like you're being seen, heard, you can ask for a second opinion and get a referral. even asked to trial HRT if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I'd still obviously always bring it back to do what you can from a lifestyle perspective first.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
and
alongside
it. Yeah, alongside it, because there's no point then drinking wine, eating not good food, not exercising, you're not helping yourself. So there probably needs to be both. You have to take responsibility yourself too, for your lifestyle and everything. And on your social media, I want to talk now from a business perspective. How did you build that social media up to where it is today? How did that start? Particularly if you're shy and introvert, or is it easier if you're behind the camera?
No, so I actually started that 10 years ago this month.
Really?
So it was February 2014, and it's called Healthy Little Lifter because it was an anonymous account. So I was so awkward about it. And I was documenting my journey to the stage whenever I was competing.
Okay.
It was never showing my face. It was just what I was eating, how I was training. And then everyone I knew found me, so that was awkward.
Yeah, this is you.
Yeah. And I've been doing this 10 years. I posted almost every day for 10 years. So that's how I grew my following. A lot to do with food. And when I started competing, that was an era where everyone was doing clean eating. If you remember that?
Yes.
And at the time I was doing flexible dieting.
Okay.
And I think that got a lot of interest. It was like, how on earth is she doing this but is able to eat normal food? Everyone was eating chicken and rice and I was eating like normal dinners.
Okay.
So that kind of built my following up. And then ironically, I'd listened to somebody, and I can't remember who it was, and I wish I could. I'd always heard this, don't make your hobby your business.
Okay.
Don't make it your job, because then you'll fall in love with it. So I was like, I'll push back against it. I was never going to go down that road. And everyone kept asking me, would you never do like nutrition training or PT or whatever? And I pushed against it. And then 2 years on, and I was like, no, I'm going to try this. And then built a business off it.
Okay. And did you only ever do online, or did you do?
Only ever online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So lockdown didn't affect me in the slightest, because I was
like,
already
I'm
doing
ready
it.
for this.
Yeah.
I'm
I've been
ready
doing
for
it
this.
anyway.
Yeah.
It's grand.
And is it mainly women, or do you do men as well?
No, I did coach men and women, and don't get me wrong, men are easier to coach all day long. But I enjoyed working with women so much more.
Yeah. And they probably need that little bit more support, maybe.
I think they're much more open to having, I don't know, more normal conversations. Men are just, tell me what to do, I'll go do it. They're very robotic. That probably sounds mean.
Yeah.
But they'll just do what you tell you.
Yeah.
Whereas women are just like, okay, I've got periods to think about, now I've got menopause to think about, postpartum to think about, and you know, there's so much more potentially.
I have to cook the dinner.
Yeah.
All the things that are going on for women. Yeah. And I think for women, you know the guy that wrote the book, and I'm terrible, I can't remember his name, Men Are From Venus, Women Are From Mars. I met him, and because in my business, I would have this bias where I would mainly employ women. And I don't really like to work with men. And I don't know why, because I like men and I enjoy the company of men and I don't hate men and all of that. But it was because I didn't understand how they worked. So I got along better with women in the working environment, because they would pick up cues that, you know, oh, she doesn't look in good form today. Or, I wonder what she meant by that. Men just need the direct instruction. And they need to be told, this is not good, or this is. They're not going to pick up on the... at all. So I would imagine it's like that.
Yeah, exactly the same.
So that's, and you grew it then just from that. You started an online program for people.
Yep.
And you post every day. Do you still post every day?
More or less.
Okay.
Less so at weekends now, but yeah, generally
And does
speaking.
it feel like a chore to post?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get an absolute buzz for it, and I'll want to post 5 times a day, and then other times I'm completely exhausted and want to just take myself off social media altogether.
Yeah, but you can't.
No, of course not.
And do you ever do batch posting or create a lot of content and then build them up?
I really should, but no.
No.
It is typically on the hop.
But you know what I think? I think that's more authentic, and people like that. Because it's whatever's happening in the day and your mood, and some days you're up and some days you're down. And I think that's why people are attracted to your page. It's because it's real.
Yeah.
So I think people would know if it's batch posted.
Yeah. Like certain things you can kind of get away with. If it's like meal ideas, you can kind of get away with batch posting that. But just to pick on what you said around how on earth did I end up doing this whenever I'm such an introvert person. Yeah. I only started posting videos maybe 2 years ago, because I was so like,
really?
I'm not
going to
put, it was such a barrier for me. I was like, I feel so awkward. Everyone's going to be looking at her thinking she's an absolute idiot. It was like genuinely only about 2 years ago. And then once I did it, I was like, why did I not do that? Why was I such a weirdo? And then I kept doing it.
And who were you worried about judging you?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody cares. Like, let's be honest. It was just me.
We get in our own way sometimes, don't we? And are you on YouTube or?
Everything.
Okay.
Absolutely everything.
And where can people find you for more information?
Instagram's probably the easiest place to get me.
And that's what is it again?
Healthy_little, isn't it? Lifter.
Yeah,
lifter. Healthy little lifter, underscores in between.
Okay, brilliant. Anything else you want to say for women and their health and well-being. What are you seeing amongst women that could help us?
Ask for help. I
Okay.
think that's the easiest thing. But also, you know your body more than anybody else. And if something feels off, get support, get help, but do what you can to support you too.
Yeah.
So it feels so selfish,
Yeah.
but looking after you is priority number one. And it's that idea of put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
Because you can't show up and wear all of the different hats that you're wearing for everybody else if you're not looking after you. And I think that's probably one of the nicest parts about menopause.
Okay.
People or women kind of come into their own a wee bit more, and they don't really. I was going to swear there. I'm going to try not to.
That's okay. You can start.
They have less tolerance, and they kind of put themselves first a wee bit more. And I
Yeah.
think as part of what you said, they're kind of potentially at a stage of life where they've got kids, they're caring for elderly parents, they
Yeah.
are running a business or they're an employee and whatever else, and it's just like it feels very selfish, but you have to look after you.
Yeah. And maybe because your body is screaming that much that you're like, I need to just tell people no and stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that rage thing, you're not there yet, but I'm telling you, it's real. It's actually real. I know now. It's just like something that didn't annoy me. It's like, oh my God. But it could just be for 15 seconds and then it's gone. But it's rage. It's real. And I think I'm glad that women are talking about it now. I'm glad that there's people like you there now and the information is readily available to us and we're not in the position that we were because we have so much life left.
Oh, 100%. Like we spend a third of our lives in menopause.
Oh my
Like you can suffer on or you can absolutely get help, get support. But if you think even back to goodness knows how long ago, hysteria, hysterectomy,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? The language around it, it's hopefully very different now. It's a lot more positive and empowering. Like learn to recognise different parts of your body, what's changing, do you feel different, then you can take action to get help,
Yeah,
support
they
and
thought
make a
that women
positive
were
change.
just going mad,
Yeah.
didn't they? But they were. But then again, I thought about it as well. A lot of women probably weren't living as long.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, women died at 50, you know, maybe 100 years ago less. They died young. And it's only now that we're all still really living, though, at this age.
Yeah.
We're young, we're still out there, we're still exercising, and I think that's the difference as well, that we're like, what's happening? And now we're in a position that we talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not as taboo. I still felt, because I said it on the one earlier on that we were, and I was like, I'm perimenopausal. I still felt the little bit of shame. Yeah. I still felt, does this mean I'm old? I'm an old woman
far
now.
from it.
But I think that's what the perception was historically.
And if you think there's women 35 hitting perimenopause, that's far from old.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and also I do generally think the conversation's changing in a much more positive way.
Yeah.
And the more we do talk about it, the better. Because like my mum passed away at 52. I didn't have that older person to be like, what is this like? What's it going to be
Yeah.
like? So I think the more generally, the bigger conversation, the better.
And for men whose wives now are going through this, because they might need some information and support on how can they help their wife, partner, sister, people in work, if they have women at that age, they're leaders in a business.
Oh yeah, it's like 1 in 10 women will give up work due to menopause. Yeah. Like that's a significant majority of the workforce. There's a lot more workplace initiatives happening, thank goodness.
Okay.
I do think it's a hard one to answer as to how best men.
Yeah.
I was asked this on a podcast the other day. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, get a stab vest. Like, what? How can you help you? Just be aware that potentially she's struggling.
Yeah.
Like, help her out where she can. She's not going nuts. She doesn't hate you. And like my other half will always say, was it a bad day or a bad 5 minutes? Like, just give her a break for 5 minutes. She doesn't hate you.
Yeah, and maybe they can educate themselves.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to go online if you to look that you get real information, Aisling? That's not
waffle.
Yeah.
A great source is Louise Newson. She's
Okay.
a fantastic doctor, an absolute incredible source of information.
Okay.
Really pushing the agenda for women to support themselves. There's an app called Balance.
Okay.
It's fabulous. You can log your symptoms on it. There's social support with that as well.
And men should go there too and have a
Oh,
look.
absolutely.
I think for as leaders in business as well, they need to understand what's happening with that women in their
team,
and not be
yeah.
afraid of it. And not be afraid if somebody comes to them and says, look, I'm going through menopause, and then they just die and say, oh, I don't know what to say. It would be a better conversation for everybody if men are educated too on
Definitely.
this. And they know what to say, how to handle it, what the symptoms are, what to look for, you know, without being embarrassed or you know, not knowing what to say. So I think,
especially in work, like brain fog is very real.
yeah,
And like someone described it as thinking through treacle, and I thought it was a great way to describe it.
yeah.
And if you're in a meeting trying to like, there's a word here and I can't
And I
remember
can't
what
figure
it
it
is.
out. Yeah. And my sister-in-law was saying that like she was always so sharp. She forgot nothing. And she said, I'm forgetting words that like glass. And then recently I was at an event and the lady just forgot her colleague's name, and she was doing a very public like event and she was speaking on stage. But she just said, I'm just at that age where, and she just said it
Just
out.
owned it.
And it was a group of women and everybody was like, oh yeah, have that. So I think more of that,
Yeah,
and as
just
you said, being
normalising it.
accepting of women of that age in your business. And I know I listened to a podcast with Barack Obama and Michelle. And so she was at the time when he was president, and she, you know, he was like, what the hell's wrong with X, Y, and Z? And she was like, she was having a hot flush. She was going through menopause. But he then made the adjustments. But he had Michelle.
Yeah, of course, yeah, fair
there
enough.
to help.
Yeah.
But some men don't. So it's just to make themselves aware of
Definitely.
what potentially could be happening to women in their office. Lower the temperature a bit, maybe. you
We
know.
fan on the day.
Yeah, just to keep them cool. Just to keep them cool. Anything else, Aisling, for people that you would like, a message you'd like to get out there?
I actually have a free resource if anyone would like it.
Yes.
You can get it directly from me if you send me a message on Instagram. It's a very comprehensive evidence-based guide with a wealth of reference list at the back. Send me a message and I'll send it over to you.
Okay, yeah, that'd be brilliant. Brilliant. And I think everybody should give you a follow.
Thank you so much.
Even if they're not in the menopause for training, I'm on this now. I'm on this. So thanks so much
No, thank
for
you so
being
much for
here. It
having
was
me.
an absolute pleasure. So please reach out to Aisling, and I think what you are doing for women is incredible and it's important. And for women like me that are at that age, but women coming behind us that are in their 20s, that you've done all the work for them, so it won't be the same struggle for them. So
Thank you so much.
Aisling.
Thank you.